Due to recent personal events in the Beervengerverse, referenced in the last few episodes, we don't have a new episode for you this week. However, we did have an overwhelming response to our recent Encore episode and tribute to Father Brownstout. And since that episode was technically the first of a two-parter, it seemed only right that we re-release part 2 as well. Though Father Brownstout was not featured in this episode, he was very much a part of it. If you're curious to hear more from my dad, check out our YouTube page, the exclusive home for 2022's video minisode, Xmas with the Brownstouts. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back with more new stuff soon. But for now, please enjoy the Beervengers European Vacation Volume 2, or Cider Girl Saves the Day.
We're the Beervengers, Beervengers, Beervengers. We're the Beervengers.
Welcome to the Beercast, everyone. Coming to you from an undisclosed location in Astoria, Queens, I am Captain Porter Brownstout.
And coming to you from an undisclosed location in Fresno, California, this is the Pale Male Hophead Huck.
And coming to you from an undisclosed location in the County of Kings, it is I, the Beer Wonder.
And coming to you from an undisclosed location where the sun never stops shining, it is I, Cider Girl.
And we are
The Beervengers.
Beervengers.
The Beervengers.
The Beervengers. We're the Beervengers.
We're the Beervengers.
All right. We're the Beervengers. All right. That's yours. All right. Can we all hear each other, everyone? It's all good.
Yes,
we're here.
We can.
Okay.
We can.
Sorry, we had some technical problems. This is not because this is the second part and we're all a little buzzed from doing part 1. We are here to do part 1, part 2. We did part 1. We're doing part 2 to tell all of you all about the Beervengers European Vacation. We have new pours. We have sent the new Beervengers on their way. And so it's just the 4 of us.
I'm going to apologize in advance for this whole episode. So I know you're not supposed to apologize for your performance in advance. Like, you don't walk into the room and you're like, I'm sorry, but like, I'm just throwing that out there. Okay. Not only did we have an excellent session prior to this, but we also had an excellent 12 to 14 day session of drinking, which may have set us all back in life just in general in the best possible way.
It's sometimes you're looking at things as a what is it, a feature or is it a bug? Is the bug actually the feature?
Is it the wind? Sometimes you're the windshield, sometimes you're the bug.
Time's a flat circle.
Wow. So
do everything turn.
I'm just going to jump on in here. So I like to post along the Facebooks for every day of our journey.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that.
So
you did a wonderful job of curating
right? I
that.
started off on the first day. We're in Bruges. Here's what we're doing. La-di-da-di-da. By the third day, I couldn't recall where we were anymore.
I feel like, again, feature, not a bug. Feature.
Yeah,
because
that meant we were having a good time.
If you're on a beer and wine based tour and you have distinct memories, perhaps you were not really
you didn't try hard enough.
You didn't do it quickly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You didn't fulfill the requirements of the trip were not fulfilled.
Speaking of,
we're being kind of Yeah, go ahead. I think you were segueing to the same place I wanted to segue to.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've teased it all enough. You're going to be hearing a lot about all the details, or at least the ones we could remember about our tour for Europe. But Huck, what do you think we need to do?
Let's have a beer.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's get to the pours. Sure. All right.
Is it too much to ask?
That you want to go first?
No, I just want a beer.
Yeah.
I don't have to go first. I just would like a beer.
Well, Cider Girl's here with us. Cider Girl, why don't you just tell us what you're drinking tonight?
That would make a lot of sense.
All right.
Sure.
So if anybody listened to part 1, bless you. And I had a beer, and it was a big deal because Cider Girl had a beer.
Really
Cider Girl has gone back to cider after that. So I have, for my enjoyment here, I have an Ace cider. They do hail from California. And this is the mango, which I have actually never tried before.
Oh, okay. Ooh.
Okay. So let's give
Nice,
it. Let's
lovely
give
crack
the
there.
old.
Oh dear, and we're getting some. Oh my! Oh, there's a poor situation
Got all the
happening here.
sounds.
Yes, this is some ASMR. We could market this as an
Oh
ASMR
yeah.
podcast now.
Is that like a pineapple-y thing going on there?
Oh, perfect pour there.
I know, gorgeous
Yeah.
Now,
fluffy head.
nice color, huh?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
let's see
have
that
had
can
their
again.
pineapple. I've had their pineapple before, but this is my
Okay.
first go at the mango.
The
Ooh.
Well, I'm excited to
mango.
see if mango and apples go together. I'm on the fence. We'll find out.
Very nice.
All right. This is the suspense is killing me. All
Now
right.
it's
Which one
like,
of us? I don't know. I don't know what order.
We
I
can't
feel
be
we
polite.
like we're.
You know
Captain,
what?
please tell us
Thank
what you're
you,
drinking.
Captain.
All right. All right.
Captain.
Well,
Huck, to make this happen.
mine is multi-layered, and I hope I don't spend too much time in this because I know you guys are thirsty too.
Thank you.
So
Thank
we
you.
went to a place called Kugelbauer, and I got this wonderful glass there.
Oh
Mm.
yeah,
you
that
can
was
see it.
fun.
And so I'm going to pour it into this glass, but I'm really excited about this. We spent a lot of time on part one talking about our trip to the Delirium Tremens facility.
That's true.
And the other day I was at Triborough Beverage and I found this champagne bottle of Delirium Nocturnum.
Woo!
It's a big glass. You can see
Ooh.
it next to my head. It's big. So it's I'm not just it like literally has the whole kind of champagne thing, not the wax thing like you've experienced us having before, but yeah, they're whole. And I gotta just okay, here we go. There we are.
Ooh,
Ooh, look at that.
love that
bless
sound.
that.
Here we go. Gonna fill up. This is a half-liter glass that I'm pouring into.
Wow. Oh boy.
I'm glad to see that made it
And
home successfully.
In one
yes,
piece.
it
yeah.
did.
And Nocturnum is their dark beer.
It's
You
very
love.
very heady, but plenty of time to let it subside. But there
Woo.
is
Oh, beautiful.
my Kookaburra, and let's bring up the bottle here as well. So this is all right.
Wow.
Right on
Oh,
theme.
gorgeous.
On
Here
we
theme
are.
today.
A
That's
plus.
the biggest head I've ever seen.
That's what she said.
Awkward.
You're
Well,
welcome.
All right. I mean, while I let that settle, I think, what do you say, Huck, Beer Wonders,
Huck.
fight it out.
Huck, make it happen.
So
you are
I'm
earlier
not
in the
on
world than I am.
theme. I should be drinking Belgian beers
Yeah.
or German beers, but I have got a beautiful California beer. This is called Bony Fingers. And
Fingus.
I've gone to this brewery before. This is Moonlight Brewing out of Santa Rosa, one of my favorites out here. Bony Fingers is a dark lager, but it's an imperial dark
Oh,
lager,
yeah.
and that's about
That's the
8%. So let's take a look at this beauty. You're going to see some good.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's lovely.
That is dark as night.
And this is
Imperial
Dark as
Dark
my
Lager.
soul.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hot patootie.
I've had the Death and Taxes is a beer. I don't know if I had it on the show, but it's kind of one of my go-tos out here. And this is sort of the imperial version of the Death and Taxes, which is a
Oh,
dark
that's
Oh,
really
nice.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
looks great.
yeah,
Good can art,
Bony
too.
Fingers.
Appropriate
The
to
name doesn't
the
even fit
spooky season.
on the screen.
Yeah.
All right, so we go
All right.
to the Beer Wonder.
All right.
Yes, what do you have, Beer Wonder?
Well, here's the thing, Captain. I've been learning from you in all of this time. There's this process of where you let a beer exist for a longer period of time.
Sure, cellaring, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so for the very first time ever, we may be making a journey to
Going to the Wonder Cellar, yeah. Come high water or hell, yeah. Never done this before, but hey, we're all in store for an interesting beer from the Wonder Cellar, yeah.
Perfect.
amazing. And you know what makes this even better is that this is a
Sponsored pour.
It is. It is.
It is from the Beer and Cheese Collective at 35-11 Ditmars Boulevard in Astoria, Queens.
It's a very exciting moment, everybody. There's a lot happening here. Okay.
Where I
don't know if
also today I was there this afternoon. I stole this Delirium Tremens coaster.
priorities.
It's cardboard. I'm sure they have plenty.
Well, this is from our friends at Oxbow Brewing Company out of Maine.
Yeah.
This is the Super Saison, which feels on brand for a superhero themed beer cast.
Podcast.
Whatever we're calling ourselves. It is a farmhouse ale with a production time of 8 weeks, and it recommends that you keep cold and enjoy within 1 year. Well, the production date on the bottom of the can is 12/14/21, and we are recording this within a year, which means it's ripe now. So let's
perfect.
Let's see how this works.
Well, right, it sounds fresh.
It does. Well, it sounds cellared. Let's be honest.
Sure.
It still is bubbling up there.
Yeah, an amber color there. Yeah.
Nice and foamy.
Nice head. Sure. All right.
That's
all right.
pretty.
So I guess we're all poured. So I think it's time for a hearty prost, everyone. Raise your glasses. Still got lots of head there, obviously, but that's part of my journey. Prost.
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 Ooh.
Oh yeah. Boy.
Yes, indeedly.
Oh wow.
That is nice. Ooh, boy, Captain, you would like this beer.
Oh yeah. Gosh. Well, you're gonna have to tell us all about it, Huck.
I'm getting very strong baker's chocolate notes and coffee notes, just really strong up front.
Ooh,
and just in the mouthfeel, and it's almost I would almost say it's like a porter, but it's not. It really is a black lager. It's got that still the lager mouthfeel, and at 6.7%. So it's not super like imperial, but as far as lagers, they're usually about 5%. So this is a bit stronger. I don't quite know how they do it. I'm going to do a little more research on this, but the Bony Fingers is a winner. Super chocolatey and just a smooth drinking, nice strong lager.
Fingers.
Oh, and it's I have Bony Fingers. So I have the glass or the can, which has the hands on it, but then I've got the Choir of the Dead glass here from Burlington.
Oh yeah.
Oh, look at that. Gorgeous.
A bit of a theme. Post-Halloween here, but our the choir.
Well, we weren't here for all of October, so we got to fit in all the holidays in the middle. I guess if we want to do, we can throw in Veterans Day, but I don't know where that's going to fit.
Well,
we'll get there.
By the time this airs,
All right. Well, Cider Girl.
Yeah.
Pineapple, mango?
Mango, not
mango,
pineapple. This one's a mango. It's interesting as you can see, the listeners can't, but absolutely zero head at this point. I've noticed this a lot with more recent ciders, is that we're not getting a lot of bubbles and foam in them. It makes me a little sad. I like to have a little bit more foam in my cider than this, but you'll find a lot of the flavored ones after about 2 seconds the head is gone.
Right.
So this one is the mango. I've had the pineapple before. I will warn people, if you want to try it, both this one, the mango, and Ace's pineapple are super sweet. Like sweet tart, Laffy Taffy sweet. So if you're not in the mood for a sweet drink, don't get it. But if you're hankering for something sweet, this will be right up your alley. I'm feeling sweet today.
Ooh,
excellent.
There you go.
Right on.
Yeah, it's super sweet.
Well, I'm glad you made the right choice for you, Cider Girl.
So Beer Wonder, how's that one? How's the aging process treated it?
Well, so here's what's going on here. Okay, this one started at a 9.5%. This is a very classic farmhouse saison kind of situation. So it's got that like fruitiness up front, a little bitterness in back. It's kind of what you want. But this is a can conditioned beer, so the aging is meant to be a part of that. And basically, when you're can conditioning a beer, just as a reminder, we add just a small amount of sugar, yeast, right at packaging, and that kind of helps create a little bit more carbonation, and it allows the beer to last a little bit longer, which is probably why the beer was literally jumping out of the can when I poured it in there. It is bold. I think this 9.5%, we may have rounded up to a 10. We might even be closing in on a 10.5%. I believe there is, we could go for 11 if we were feeling really spicy, because this beer is strong and I feel it already. So
excellent.
So get ready for a weird episode with the Beer Wonder.
I'm a little jealous. Mine's only 5%.
You could always open another one.
Do better.
Well, that's true. Yeah. I mean, who knows how long this is going to take? We can always bring in another one. It's interesting. Mine is the head is finally subsiding, which I really like, just because that makes me feel more comfortable drinking, but also means that I can show the glass, and you can really see the wonderful artwork on it, and you can see that this is a tower that we all climb to the top of.
And starting a wonderful experience near the end of our trip.
Yeah,
like the next to last day, I think. Yeah,
but
from the Kugelbauer. Yeah,
I would love to briefly bring us back to the beginning of our trip.
Okay.
Sure. Because... Yes, let's do that. I just wanted to talk about this beer for just a little bit. Just like the Nocturnum is an. It's funny. Like all the deliriums, when we first started seeing them in America, they just seemed to be. They were all like, oh, there's such a high ABV, and this one it's a very potent beer, but it's 8.5%. Which probably to have a beer this big at that high of an ABV after that 11% quad I had last week, or in our world an hour ago. That's probably for the best. But yeah, it's nice. It's got those Belgian spices, some of those stone fruit things in there, and it's reliably very good. All right, you were saying, Beer Wonder,
please.
Well, no, I did want to just take us back to the beginning before we got to the end, because I feel like for those people who may have no idea what we're talking about, it's probably worth explaining what this whole thing was.
I think that's a wonderful idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I could start. Yes. So we went with a group called Go Ahead Tours. Also, EF is another one of their names.
Yes,
they're
EF,
not a
Go
sponsor.
Ahead Tours,
yeah, not a sponsor.
They could be.
But they could be.
Yeah.
Hey, if anyone out there wants to send the Beervengers on another Go Ahead tour, we'd be happy to go. Anyway, yes. Hophead Huck and I have gone on many of these tours, and we really loved the idea of going with the other Beervengers. And it was just so happened that Go Ahead has a tour that is beer focused. And so how could we skip that opportunity to explore Belgium and Germany, beer, wine, and chocolate, and French fries and waffles and everything.
Lots of other good stuff.
Yes.
Lots of
my
meats.
memory about how this all got started, I think Huck was the one who found it, sent it to me, and we'd been sitting on it for a bit, and then you were moving to Fresno, and I said, like, what was that beer tour thing you sent me? And you sent it to me again, and I mentioned to you the night we were leaving, and it seemed like a good idea, but then Cider Girl pulled me aside and said, keep bugging him about that. make sure you stay on him, because we should do that. And so I took that advice, and so we all went on this tour together, the six of us, and as we mentioned, the six others. Should we talk more about the other people we were on the tour with before we get into the full on travelogue?
Well, we had
the triples.
We can have them the triples. Triple
we
Dawn.
We mentioned the triples,
Deb. Lady Triple, I suppose. She
Deb,
was the couple that was with us. Very nice people, super nice people.
Really,
and
wonderful.
Another couple that was with us was the man and woman. He was Beer Me.
Yes.
Joel immedially chose Beer Me for his Beervenger name.
He knew his name right away, and I was thinking it was like Thor's hammer. Like all he had to do was hold his hand out, so his magic power. The can of beer would fly to his hand. Beer Me.
I don't think we ever came up with a name for Tammy, did we?
His lovely wife Tammy. She was.
I had Night Nurse. Something.
Oh, I like that.
Night Nurse is a Marvel character.
Yeah, it is a Marvel character, and she is a nurse. Yeah.
She did help some of us who got sick on the tour.
Yes, that is true
as well. So
that's the downside to everything. Yeah,
we could call her the right nurse. We'll just come up with that.
Yeah.
And then who else do we have? We had our host.
Our host, Kitty Creek. Yes,
Kitty Creek, I believe.
Yes, Kitty Creek. Yeah. She went by the name of Cat. And she loves cats, and she had told us at the beginning that she'd just unfortunately lost a very elderly cat that she'd had for many years.
Right.
And she loved the creek, so Kitty Creek just seemed like the perfect name for her.
And then we did, of course, have two solo travelers. We had Space Coaster, who, unfortunately, her adventures were cut short with us. But we enjoyed getting to know her.
Not every Beervenger can make it to the end.
No.
From what it weighs down, she's okay now. But she unfortunately had to cut her.
Yes.
We're not talking about our late traveling companion.
She's still alive.
No, she's still with us, thankfully.
Yes.
But we also, and then we did, of course, have.
We hope you're feeling better, Diane.
Yes. Yep. But most importantly, we did have, I believe her name was Leader Lady and the Wonder Pug.
Yes.
Leader Lady Charmaine, and the Wonder Pug. Yes.
Yes.
Another West Coast Beervenger. No, but she talked about him a lot.
Yes.
Leader lady, yeah,
She
because
missed him,
she would lead us through some of the streets
She had a great sense of direction.
She did. So
Yeah.
the leader lady, and tie that into the amount of beer you put into a glass.
But yeah, those
There you
were our
go.
traveling companions throughout Belgium and Germany. Starting in Bruges, working our way down, ending up in Munich, and a lot of stuff in between, which we're going to tell you about.
Yeah, and I thought the first night
they were
I
such
remember
good sports. So I just wanted to thank them, but for being good sports.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. They were kind.
Now, we flew in from California. We had a very long trip, and we actually flew to Munich and then to Brussels and then drove to Bruges. And I figured, you know what? We're just going to go to dinner and call it a night.
Oh no, that was
that is not what happened.
That did not fit on with my jet lag plan, and I'm glad all of you came along. Yeah, that was your plan, and then I told you my jet lag plan, and you graciously agreed to follow along because the idea is we're done with dinner at like 8:00, and if we go back to the hotel, if we haven't slept all night, we're gonna go back to the hotel. We're gonna fall asleep at 9 and wake up at 2, and it's gonna we're
terrible.
not gonna. So when you have jet lag, the best way to do it is stay up until when you would normally go to bed in that country. So we set out, and Huck found us a really great place to go to.
Yeah, well, first we had dinner, and we had there was the included dinner, and we had a couple of very good Leffe beers.
Yes, and that's when we presented the shirts to our new Beervengers.
That's right.
Yes.
And the four of us decided we're going to keep going, and we found a place called
Yesterday's World.
Thank you. Yesterday's World.
Yesterday's World.
This is in Bruges.
Yep, this is
a beer bar.
It was a beer bar, and I love that we get two. The captain said, "I'll go and we'll get 2 of the sample plates,
yes,
or what we would call flights over here, right? They're like their version of the flight."
Yep.
And of course,
did we get 2 of them, or did I just get one that we all shared?
No, you got 2.
No, you got 2.
Okay, I didn't remember.
That we all shared.
I have my notes. We had 2. We definitely had 2.
All right.
And these were not like 4-ounce pours.
No,
they were
they were
good size pours. So we were off to a good start.
So, and just to report in, I do have what we drank that evening in case anyone remembers. It was the Burse Zot Blonde, the Quack Amber, and the Saint Bernardus Potter 6.
Potter 6. I have that one down. Yeah.
What's important to note for this entire trip, we were never given a sample size of anything.
Oh, no.
We were never given a taste. If you wanted it, you got a full glass of it. If you wanted it, you got a full plate of it. So picture everything we're talking about in an extra large glass.
Yeah. But
maybe not quite as big as this half-liter glass, but yeah.
That's true. But it is worth mentioning that while this bar was lovely and there was a great outdoor seating area, we spent some lovely time out there. Really, what sets this apart is the fact that there was a whole world about Yesterday's World that was asking to be discovered.
Oh my.
Does anyone want to tell us about what this
it was like a vintage secondhand antique hybrid store. Does that describe it? Does it begin to describe what we experienced when we were there? I
would just add a dash of Alice in Wonderland.
Okay, sure.
We were through the looking glass.
It really felt like that. Because we were outside, like Beer Wonder said, and we said we got a second round after we'd finished the sample plate. We're like, no, we're going to drink more. And so I remember getting triple, always the triple.
Always.
And
I found an Imperial Stout. I didn't find a lot of those in the neighborhood, but I looked through the book. They had this Gulden Drache, a 12% Imperial Stout, which they had in quotes. So maybe it wasn't technically that, but it was good. Anyway.
And I said to the bartender, can we go upstairs? And she's like, oh, yeah, go upstairs, enjoy yourselves. And we walk up the stairs, and that was where the Wonderland began. It was like
truly.
All these antiques, but not just antiques, just like very quirky antiques. And we met a special cat on the second floor.
Yes.
Whose name was Freddie.
He didn't meet us because he was dead, but yeah.
Yeah, it was a stuffed cat, and I so wanted to take that cat home. But
it was expensive.
And I think the captain said, we should do an Instagram Live. And I'm like, we're doing an Instagram Live. And I just turned it right on. We started doing one. So it's a good 12 minutes of us wandering this antique store bar. If you want to check that out, it was a lot of fun.
It's still on our Instagram feed if you want to see it. Yeah, it's I just watched it this afternoon. It's something.
Yeah, there were a lot of things that happened there, it was quite the way to start off the trip.
Yeah.
And I feel like it sort of set the tone for some of the exploration that happened after that. Because what I recall of the next day was that we went on a little bit of a chocolate tour. We tried about 5 different chocolates, and I believe Cider Girl had some specific thoughts on the chocolates, if I remember.
Yes, so we were exposed to all levels of chocolate, according to our tour guide. We started with what she considered the common chocolate that you would maybe get in the airplane, the stores before you get on the airplane. And she gave that chocolate to us with like her nose turned up, and I think we all decided it was actually lovely chocolate. And
It
then
was
really
real
good.
and then the next piece was the next level. It was a little better, but it didn't have the artisanal quality of some
Were
of the
those the
other
ones?
chocolate.
Was that the first swan we got?
It
one
was
that
the
shaped like a
first swan, yes, not the
Okay, yeah.
last swan, but the
No,
first
No.
there
swan.
were multiple swans.
And that one was also good.
Mhm.
And then we went to the third level, and I believe like the third level and above was probably like too expensive for us to buy if we were just going to buy it on our own. Like this is how high-end chocolate we were headed.
Mhm.
And that one, there was a choice of which there was a swan.
Yes.
And that swan was my favorite chocolate we had when we were there.
It was a good swan.
It melted in my mouth. It was a swan made out of chocolate, not made out of swan, just to be clear. And then there was a third one that we went into the shop for, and that started to get a little almost too fancy. It was like a little harder to eat, but
Too
still
fancy for you.
very
Yeah,
high end chocolate.
I think mine was shaped like a skull, and there was some kind of jelly in it or something.
Oh, what?
Mine was like
That's
colorful.
Yeah, that's the last one.
Oh, that's the last one. We don't talk about that one.
And the last one, which was supposed to be the nicest one, the
Mhm.
highest end one, they were all beautiful colors, shiny, tiger stripes, shaped like skulls, all sorts of
Mhm.
things. I picked the one gold. It was gold. It looked like
Mm.
gold. And I took a
Ooh.
bite into it, and it tasted like mayonnaise. I do not like mayonnaise. And other people had ones that was like, ooh, mine tastes like mango. Mine tastes like raspberry.
Oh, wonderful chocolates. Yes.
Mine tasted like mayonnaise.
You got a rock.
And she said to
You
me,
got the Charlie Brown chocolate.
she said to me, will you taste this? And I did. And she's not kidding. I mean, it was gross.
Okay.
It was gross.
I got the wizard bean that was the booger flavor, basically.
Ew. Ew.
Right
I
on.
passed.
And that evening we went to a place called De Havman Brewing. I got a full brewery.
Well, that was the afternoon. De Havman was the afternoon. The evening was the beer pairing dinner. The one that I.
Oh,
am I right?
you're
there?
right. I'm considering them to be the same.
Yeah,
I guess it was the early
Okay.
part.
I was gonna skip. There was an incident with some mussels.
Was that the same day?
That was the same day.
We don't need to
Yeah.
get
What a day this was. We did
We
everything.
don't know for
in one
sure
day.
that's what it was.
We had mussels for lunch, and
it was quite a
the
first
Brownstout
full day,
family was less successful with the mussels. The Wonder Tripel family
At least-
managed to be successful with the mussels, but the Brownstouts really did not have a good go at this. But we can skip that.
Yeah, honestly, we didn't know for sure that it was the mussels, but yeah, I did not make it to our beer pairing dinner that night, and I was out of commission for about a full 24 hours.
That was all one day.
But you can talk about that. Yeah, that was all one day.
Yes.
I mean, we drank so much beer that day.
We drank a significant amount of beer.
Right, because we did the mussels, and then we went to like the wall of beer, and then we went to the
Well,
half man.
we went to the wall of beer, and we had 2 different flights there. We had both the local and the strong flights. That was 8 different beers to taste.
Yes.
So we did some important investigation there, and then we did eventually make it to our first brewery tour of the Misadventure.
Yeah.
And
we tried to go to a different one, but they were closed.
Yeah.
What was the other one? Because Huck had a thing where he was like, yeah. We might be getting a little too into the weeds here if we want to, unless we want to do a 4-hour version of this.
But I feel like the Half Moon was was our first brewery tour, and I thought it was great. It was an historic place.
Who besides me did anyone figure out what the Havman meant?
Yeah.
It's like half moon, right?
Half moon.
But it took me. I was halfway through the tour and I realized it.
It was the picture.
It's right there on
every
the logo.
Everything.
I know.
Yeah.
There's
on
a
the
picture
brew
on the
before we even walked into the place.
I have it here on this.
You'd had some beers. It was
there. It is right there.
It was all good.
The Half Moon.
But
I was like, I get it.
Yep.
It's the Half Moon.
Yep.
Lovely brewery. Their triple was to Die For. We talked a little bit about it last week.
So much.
Yeah, that's the one where always the triple got his name.
Exactly. Very important. I have notes.
Always a
triple. Yep. I have actually notes of that down here. And then we went off to our beer pairing dinner. Now, I do want to ask, Beervengers, when we think of a beer pairing, we're like going somewhere to have a beer pairing, and you're going to be presented with beers to drink along. What are you expecting? Like, what's the quantity of beer that you would want in that experience?
Maybe just like a little sample would be fine. I mean, I want more than that, but
yeah. But like we'd expect like like a little ouncer thing. What were we being served at this dinner?
Ideally, yeah.
We were being served basically 12-ounce pours for each course.
You're making me make so sorry that the muscles turned on me at that point, because I would actually love a beer pairing dinner with all 12-ounce pours. That just sounds amazing to me.
The other thing I always enjoy when we go out and do these sort of things is I like hearing, this is a tripel, and we use these kind of hops, and it's from. I love the details. I have in the past like read off the details from menus for all of you while you're drinking and stuff, and so they give us these huge pours of these beers, and then you guys kept asking, "Oh, well, what is this beer? Where is this beer from? Tell us about this beer." And the waiter was like, "That's the brown beer."
The dark beer, yeah.
The dark beer.
And we're like, yes, but
we didn't get a lot of details.
But who makes the dark beer? It's the dark beer.
Yeah.
So we'll never know.
We'll never know.
I must admit, although I've been I tried to keep tabs. I don't remember what we had there. I think it was the Half Man. It was the Half Moon's beers.
Well, we never got clarification on that, because they literally said the one thing that we do know is that we did have an excellent creek there.
Yeah.
And that it was a really traditional creek. It was very sweet, and many of our non-beer lovers on our group actually really enjoyed that beer, if I recall correctly.
You are correct.
Yes, everyone from Cider Girl to Cat to Deb.
And that was the dessert pairing. Was the creek? Was the cherry beer?
Yep.
That was very good.
Yep. So with that, we then roused ourselves the next morning and got ourselves on.
You did anyway.
Yes, we did, because unfortunately the captain was sidelined.
Yeah.
This was the captain's day off. We each had our own day.
Yes, exactly.
Oof, 3 of us anyway.
Yes,
yeah. But talk about while I was hanging out in the hotel, letting my digestive system repair.
Oh yes,
how everything that happened to that.
Right, we went to a place called Ghent.
Yes,
Ghent.
And in Ghent, we went on a lovely walking tour with a charming gentleman, where we went to a pairing experience, where we were served hard alcohol at like 10:45 a.m.
Yeah.
Which, here's the thing, like, don't knock it till you tried it. First off, and
I'm experiencing so much FOMO just listening to it again.
So Tripel, always a Tripel, and I both went for the straight up 35% alcohol, because like that apparently is the life that we've chosen to live, and like, respect. And it was good and burned. But Cider Girl did go for something a little bit different, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I had a little almost like cocktail at 10:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I'd like to say I could tell you what kind of alcohol was in it, but I don't remember. But it was really good, and it had flowers floating in it.
Yeah, I believe it was like an elderflower. It was recommended.
Elderflower
it was
liqueur,
a unique local experience.
It was beautiful. It tasted great. Yep. And I don't remember my name.
I had water that day.
Yeah.
But we did have beer, because we went to a place called Groot, where we had Groot beer. And if you know your beer history, we know that before hops became the main source of flavor for beer, there was something called Groot, which was a series, a grouping of herbs together. That was where beer flavoring came from. And this brewery in Ghent had decided to go for that old standard of making that tradition, which is completely not done.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not done anywhere as far as I know. And it's a new brewery, a craft brewery, where they use the Groot instead of hops. Now you can tell when you drink them that something's missing, but I'm glad they did it. That someone's doing it. It was certainly an interesting thing to go and experience. It was a beautiful brewery, nice place, and I'm glad we did it.
Oh, so glad. I honestly thought it was such a, because it is sort of something that Ghent is known for. It was, I think, like a highlight for a beer nerd that we actually had a chance to try and taste this. And I wanted to also thank the very wonderful bartender who was behind the bar, who we unfortunately like roped into explaining everything to us. And she seemed mildly terrified, but she really made all of our days by like letting us know what the process was and talking to us
Well,
about
their
other
website
Mhm.
told us to do
Yeah.
that to
Yeah.
her.
Well, in fairness, but it was, I was so excited that we had a chance to go. I'm curious, of those of you who tasted it, how many of you would have drunk it again?
I mean, I'd have it again. I wouldn't make the choice to have maybe if there was another option, I'd have something else, but I would do it again. Sure.
Since I was indisposed that day, I do want to thank all of you for getting a special dark winter Groot for me to have when I had recovered, and I enjoyed having that a couple days later. I feel like that because I had one with a few more adjuncts, that maybe it hit a little bit more of the fact that the hops weren't there, but it still wasn't great.
Yeah.
Set a girl, your thoughts?
It was like it was drinkable. It was fine. But it was like, yeah, I could see what you were talking about. How like this is like, yeah, it's good that we found hops.
Well, Captain, we were thinking of you that day because we walked by a place called Manhattan Burgers and we saw
Oh
Lady
wow,
The Lady
Liberty
Liberty,
there.
yeah.
And so
yeah.
it made us think of you for some reason.
I
But
thought the
cider,
group beer was interesting because the brewers had kind of did a deep dive into history,
Mhm.
and they actually rediscovered the traditional recipes of Groot. And there was a story that I vaguely recall of, like they were studying how to be a brewer and they were like, I don't want to do beer. I want to do the traditional recipe. And they
Mhm.
found this ancient recipe. And so it's neat that someone dived into that and bringing it back. And not
Yeah.
everybody likes hops. Hops are bitter and piney and
Mhm.
awful. And so it might be fun to have something that is different.
Yeah.
It still wasn't my cup of tea, but I liked where they were going with it, and bravo.
Yeah, well, and Tripel, always a
Yeah.
Tripel, to this day will tell me, will remember the Groot Brewery and tells me that were we to just move to Ghent for a month, which honestly I think is kind of the goal, and if I'm ready when the Beervengers tour extravaganza company begins, I think it should be a stop. That one might actually grow. It might grow on one as they drunk more of it over a long period of time and grew a taste for
Perhaps.
it. Mm-hmm.
So,
That sounds reasonable.
and the next day we left Bruges and we stopped by the Delirium Brewery, Hilga Brewery, which we've talked about last week, which was an amazing highlight.
Yeah.
Oh,
It really
We
absolutely.
made our
was.
ways to the
It
city of
really
Brussels
was.
at
I
that
mean,
point.
we touched on a few things, but yeah, it was so great. Wonderful watching those robots doing their work.
100% recommend.
Yeah, it was truly incredible to see a small local brewery that has truly international distribution staying independent and being able to manage all of their own
Yeah,
distribution in that way.
I can't believe that this bottle I got was made
Mhm.
there.
Right.
I so many places outsource that stuff to like because all the various tariffs make, but yeah, all the any they have incredible distribution, and any Delirium Tremens beer that you find in the States was made there where we saw it being made.
Yeah,
And
cider girl.
they made some of our beer there. We saw a whole pallet of the Brooklyn Defender.
Yeah.
That's right. So they brew other people's beers, and that was something that we were surprised to see, was that there was the Brooklyn Defender was being made for our Brooklyn beer fans, our New Yorkers in the house. They were doing a lot of other stuff. And our trip to Brussels was very nice, and we went to another brewery, which was part of an abbey beer. This is the end of
Oh
our
yeah, the Maris Douce.
Maradsu.
Maritsu. I don't know why I've never been dyslexic, but I always mix up those. Maritsu. I don't know why I say Maris Douce.
Lovely
Maritsu.
stuff. Again, we had a Belgian beer, and there was a triple. I didn't order the triple, and I was like, what was I thinking? Triple, always a triple. That's the rule.
Always a triple. That's what we've learned.
I thought their brown was great.
Yep. And I do want to do an incredible shout out to our truly spectacular tour guide.
Oh, she was fabulous.
She was wonderful.
Who looked like Mary Poppins out of a movie. Shamed us all for our lack of knowledge of the Catholic traditions, and then filled us all in to make sure that we were not totally off base.
Yes.
And really was just like out of this world in this beautiful Gothic cathedral.
Yes, she gave us a tour of the actual abbey, which was different from the brewery. But when it came to talking about the beer, she knew her stuff.
Oh, did she ever?
She certainly did.
Really did.
Yeah, that was what I mentioned before when on the last week when I talked about the. She said, "Now, do you call it? I don't know. My impression is good, but is it a holy beer or is it an abbey beer?"
I think we gave the right answer.
I think we gave the right answer, and she was happy because apparently she really didn't like it when people called it a holy beer. Then we got into the place, we saw there was actually a big sign saying holy beer. So apparently that was a struggle she was fighting.
She didn't like that.
Every day.
It's worth mentioning that they also have an abbey cheese there.
True.
Ooh,
and we got to sample the cheese, and each got almost a half a wheel of cheese to try.
Yeah, legitimately.
We got so much cheese I couldn't finish the meatballs they gave us.
Yeah.
Granted, my stomach I think was still recovering, but yeah, I had half a meatball. I'm like, I had all that cheese. I can't eat these meatballs.
Yeah. And then with that, we did take a very long drive that day where we went to the town where saxophones were invented, if I recall correctly. And we did.
Oh, yeah, that was that same day. Sure. And then we went up the big elevator thing.
And Triple and I went and bought highly distilled water and used hand signs to make it work. It was excellent. But that day we did end our time at a brew dog in Wiesbaden, Germany.
Very good. Yes,
we did. We didn't talk a whole lot about this with Father Brownstout, but Father Brownstout and I have been to a lot of countries together, had a lot of beers together, and we have visited brew dogs in. Okay, I'm starting with Rome, Florence, Vienna, and Brewdog opened a place in Ohio, 2 hours from where he lives. And unfortunately, he wasn't feeling very well that day because at that point, the Beervenger virus had passed to him. And he was not able to join us to go there and hang out at this. But yeah, we did visit the Scottish brewery Brewdog in, what was that city?
Wiesbaden.
Wiesbaden. Lovely place too. Very nice, super friendly staff. It was a great time.
Yes. I do also want to note that I was able to, and this has been a mild lifelong dream of mine, drink a Kolsch that we think was potentially geographically protected. We're going to argue that. I'm not sure, but we're going to say it was.
Okay.
This was another issue with our tour because we drove essentially through the city of Cologne.
Yeah, exactly.
And we did not stop for a Kolsch, and that was a no-no. So
we could again we can do better. But it was in an appropriate glassware in theory brewed hopefully within the geographic confines of Cologne, which would make it an official geographically protected Kolsch, and I enjoyed every second of it. Also, always a Trippel and I, for the first time in a very long time, had leafy greens, and we were both very excited about that too.
Which was the exact same meal I'd had with Father Brownstout a month ago at the Columbus Brewdog. It was the exact same. Well, I had eaten it. He had some. Actually, no, you two had what I'd had at the Columbus Brewdog. Cider Girl, Hophead Huck, you had the thing that my dad had in Brewdog in Columbus. So yeah, they're consistent. They're consistent with their food menu, but what's also really cool is every time Brewdog opens up in another city, they will have the Brewdog beers, and they always have a number of guest taps. So if you're in Rome, Florence, Vienna, Columbus, what's the name of that city we were in Germany again? Wiesbaden. They all have Brewdog beers and local beers, which is kind of cool.
The next day, I feel like I should speak with authority on because the next day was not about beer.
That's correct.
It was about wine. Hooray!
Yes, accurate. It was a lovely day. It was a lovely day.
I'm told this was my day to have the Beervenger virus, and I will say that I managed to kill it.
You did, yes.
So,
and thank you for that.
Yeah. So it was one rough day, but otherwise I was feeling pretty good. after that.
Yeah, the big hit of the day, we took a little boat cruise down the Rhine River.
Oh, it was so lovely.
And on the right,
Saw a lot of
yep,
castles.
on the right was vineyards, and on the left was castles. And around every bend in the river was another castle and another winery. And uh, our tour guide bought us 2 bottles of wine to have on the boat as we were drifting down the Rhine. And the important in Germany to note, if you're having white wine, it's basically you ask for sweet or dry. They have names, but if you just shout out one of those 2 words, you'll get what you want. So if you're feeling sweet or if you're feeling dry, just say that and they'll bring you something. And we got so we shared 2 big bottles of wine. Then we went to a dinner that had a proper pairing of wine with food.
That
The
was
I do want to back up a little bit to that morning when we got to see that big, great statue. We took the gondola to the thing and we saw that big Germania statue.
yeah,
yes,
That was that same day,
that was
wasn't it?
yeah.
yeah. We glided over.
That was incredible to see.
Yeah, we glided over some vineyards on a gondola. We went and stood underneath a big bronze lady, which the captain may have some experience with, and
Yeah. Well, mine's copper.
yeah,
But yeah,
well, it's close enough.
close enough.
And we learned a little bit about the history of Germania, and then went on our cruise and got to our. And here's the thing I want to acknowledge about the wine dinner, because Cider Girl accurately mentions that sometimes it is nice to have someone tell you what you're drinking, and
I
in
love
this
that.
case, we did, if I'm not mistaken, have the woman, the wife of the winemaker, who walked us through the wines that we were being served. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. Yeah.
Yep. Now, if I recall correctly, there was a hint of slate in some of the wine that we were
Yep.
enjoying.
Yep. They have a certain kind of soil in those areas where the grapes are grown, and some of the denseness of the soil includes slate, and that affects the
Yeah.
tastes of the different wines.
Yep. And one of the things I enjoyed learning about from her was ice wine, which, if you haven't had that, is this where the berries get frozen. And we asked her about ice wine. I think a few people were interested in this, and she talked a little bit about the process of collecting it, where she said she's up at 4 o'clock in the morning with a headlamp, ripping grapes off the vine in order to make your ice wine. So if you are an ice wine drinker, just think about this absolutely lovely German woman standing on a slate, hilltop with a headlamp, ripping your frozen grapes off of the vine while you're drinking
Yeah.
that wine.
So enjoy that. Take your time and enjoy that wine. Somebody worked really hard on it.
Yeah, I feel like that may have been an overarching lesson of this whole trip. Was
Yeah, it's like every time you're enjoying a beverage, think about everything that went into making it exist.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take a stab at the winery here.
Okay.
Bomparder Ham.
Gesundheit.
It was. It's funny because I enjoy wine, but I also feel that like I have a bias towards red, and Germany seems to be more inclined towards white.
100%.
But I did have some really good. I had some really good red wines at some point during that evening. And it was a nice pairing meal. You were talking about how the beer. That's another thing I would put beer pairing. Why I'm so sorry my stomach wasn't able to show up for that first beer pairing evening, because I feel like you're absolutely right that the beers, they always give us really generous pours. I didn't find the same thing to happen with wine
suddenly
pairings.
they got not as free flowing.
Yeah, they were a little stingy with the wines.
Yeah. At one point I said, can I have a little more of that wine? I can't remember which place I did that. It was the next day, I think, where I said, like, I'd like some more of that. Can I have some? And they were nice. It was good. It happened.
Well, and the next day we did head off to the residence, which I know Father Brownstout was very taken with.
I agree with him. I think it was better than the one in Munich.
Yeah. And that was in Würzburg, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
And it was like Rococo masterpiece, frilly golden things everywhere.
I think Huck wants to have another beer. Is that the case? Are you ready for another pour, Huck?
I want another beer, but it's in the other room, so I'd have to go get it.
Okay.
But I do want to mention we're in Germany now on our tour. We've left Belgium. Was that made?
Yes, we're at the residence. We're there before we have another one of our wine pairing things.
Right. Well, Huck, why don't you get your beer? Because I'm curious from Cider Girl, because we did have a second wine situation. We had a wine lunch in a basement.
Yes.
And I in these ones, these were like more specialty wines. Did you have specific thoughts on this part of the experience, our second wine meal?
You know, that second wine experience, I just didn't have as much fun as the first wine experience. So I don't know if that colored my feeling of the taste of the wine. You know, when you have that perfect night and you're enjoying yourself, and then the wine just tastes that good, and then you go to the next place and they're also offering excellent wines. But I didn't quite have as much fun, and I think it's because I just got a big pile of cheese for lunch, because the choices were sausage or nothing, and so they gave me a pile of cheese.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
Yep. But speaking of a pile of cheese, that did lead. We were headed over to Bamberg, but there had been a glitch in our experience, and so we wound up staying at a wellness hotel outside of Bamberg. And I do want to acknowledge that clearly it was like 80s German music night at the
Wait a minute, was that the same day we found ourselves at that brewery? That was that same day.
Yes,
the same day where we had that lunch.
This, but then it's worth going back because the plate of cheese is that. But it was like 80s night at the hotel, so like there was a full COVID super spreader dance party situation that was happening that evening, and it was excellent. And also,
we don't know that it was a super spreader, but yeah, based on what we found out what was happening in Germany when we left, that probably
most of them probably got COVID, and I hope you all survived. But in order to make it up to us, Kitty Creek took us for something called Brotzeit.
Yeah, Brotzeit.
Brotzeit, which means bread time.
Bread
in
time.
German. And so you eat bread and cheese and sausage and you eat, and that is Brotzeit. It is bread time. And so she took us to Brotzeit at this kind of weird little brewery that I feel like was on the outskirts of town. Is that what you're thinking, Captain?
It was the Alte.
I think you're right about that.
The Trunk Brewery.
Trunk Brewery, yeah. That may have been the last time I saw my pony hoodie. I don't know.
No. Really?
So that's have I totally derailed the whole
story
of that day?
I didn't know about that.
No.
Well,
so when we were at the Trunk Brewery, I was wearing the pony hoodie.
I have a picture of it.
And then I didn't realize until like 2 days after I got back, I'm like, did the pony hoodie make it back?
No.
And then I reached out to the Holiday Inn in Munich, and they didn't see it. And the last day I know for sure I was wearing it was there at the Trunk Brewery. And I've reached out to that hotel, and they haven't gotten back to me. So I think I'm going to reach out to EF and say, like, can you reach out to them? Because remember, that was the hotel that, like, there was no English being spoken at all.
Yep.
And also Kat was talking about how they were not very communicative with her.
Well, our young bartender there
did
speak English. She was pretty.
She was great. But I remember Kat had some hard times getting them to respond to her things.
I thought it was bad that I lost my
same experience.
My tilted barn hat. Forget about that. I do have my.
Well, I was saving that for part 2 because I didn't think that would be too much front loading part 1 of this.
Well, I got my I'm back to Moonlight. This is the Death and Taxes black beer. This is the base beer of the Bony Fingers. This is the more subtle version, which is only about 5%. So it's a real nice beer. I'll keep it in the same glass because it's the same family. But okay, there you go. Go on.
Is it a black lager?
It's another black lager. Yeah.
Second pour.
Cool. Second pour.
But I feel like I derailed everything. So let's talk more about Trunk Brewery because that was kind of a really cool place.
It was fun, and I have marked it that I did have a beer there. It was a Helles. I just essentially had a Helles beer. There wasn't a lot of choices. And this is something to mention. I think that in Belgium, they make strong beers.
Yes.
And they have a wide variety of styles.
Yep.
And you go to Germany and they're like, we got the Helles, maybe a Pilsner, and then like a Radler.
And they do those ones very well.
They do them very well.
Extremely well.
Depending on the brewery you go to. But this one was it was out of the way place, and it was a beautiful. I mean, we made up for our little issue where we weren't being in the city of Bamberg, which is what we expected.
And which is where we went the next day.
We did go the next day, and we had a wonderful beer crawl. We did an old-fashioned Beervengers beer crawl.
We did.
I feel like
5 locations.
Where was the place we had lunch?
Well, so the place.
What was that place?
The place we had lunch was called the Klosterbau Bamberg. It was the oldest brewery in Bamberg. It was the one that our very quirky. Am I going to call him that? Tour guide, cider girl. Do you have a better word?
Sure, let's call him that.
It was quirky.
I'm just going to say talkative.
Sure, there we go. Okay.
Loquacious.
Loquacious. But it was the oldest brewery, and apparently they used to take in the grain as taxes from the farmers and turn it into beer there. And that was our first of 5 that day. We had lunch there. And if I recall, it was the first of the Rauch beers that we had. Rauch beer, yes.
Yes, but we also had a Schwartz beer there.
Y'all had the Schwartz beer.
You and I.
Yes, we did have the Schwartz beers.
Did we all have it?
You and I had the Schwartz beer.
But I feel like that Schwartz beer might have been the best beer I had for the entire trip.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, I would say the Belgian beers, but in Germany for sure, that Rauch beer I had at Klosterbräu was the best one we had.
So according to the glass you drank the beer out of, they have been brewing beer since 1533.
Bless it.
Bless it.
Well, I guess they perfected it then.
They seem to have done okay, yeah.
And do you want to tell the people who don't understand what a Rauch beer is? What it is?
I feel like this is Huck's territory because
a Rauch beer is directly translated as a smoked beer. So it's the malts
smoked beer,
are smoked over an open flame, and so they take on the flavor of smokiness. So a lot of times when people taste it, they think, "Oh, why am I tasting bacon? Why am I smelling bacon?"
Yep.
You're not. You're smelling the smokiness of it. And so I love it. I'm personally a big fan. And we actually went there to go to the where we ended up having dinner.
Schenkerla?
Echt Schlenkerla Brewery.
Yeah, but we covered a lot of territory before that. Okay.
Before that, yeah.
Because
we did. We wandered all over Bamberg.
Because I believe the next one we went to was the Ambrosianum, if I recall correctly.
Good pronunciation.
Which you might have seen on our Instagram.
And I had a Hellas and a Keller there, and my notes say that they were nice.
There you go.
Well, I remember people saying, "We just want to get a short pour," and then I went up to the counter and I was like, there was a slight language barrier, so I was like, "Just give me them all." And so we ended up having half liters for everybody.
Yep, that was about right. That was correct.
But they had a charge, and this is something that happens in Germany. They charge you for the glass.
Yes.
So I think this place it was $2.50, which was
expensive.
Was a fair amount for the glass. And the idea is you just return the glass and you get your money back.
It's a deposit.
It's just a deposit. Yeah. It's no big deal. But if you're going to take the glass home or you're going to break it, then you have to end up paying for it. But Ambrosianum had a nice Hellas there. No issues there. I enjoyed it.
And then next up, we went to the Zum Sternla. And at this point, we wind up picking up the rest of our tour group.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, we just ran into them on the street and said, "We're going to crawl. Come with us." And they're all such incredibly game. Yeah. They said, "Yeah, sure, we'll come with you." So yeah, we met Deb, Don, Charmaine, Joel, and Tammy, and they just came along.
And for me, at least, and I think Cider Girl may agree that this was one of the more artistic experiences we had on the trip because there was a legitimate, there was a spiritual moment for some of the other beer drinkers that were there, I feel.
Yeah,
well, there was a singing group.
Yeah.
Trigger warning.
And so when we heard that, of course, we had to respond by singing the Beervengers theme song.
So picture, 15 German men singing in all this harmony, and we find out that the words they're singing are about how much they love their beer, even though it sounds quite different than that. And then we're on the other side of the windows. The windows are open. And so we rise to the occasion and sing the Beervenger song. And we get our new Beervenger friends to sing along with us. We're all singing. And I don't know if everyone noticed this but me, but they quietly closed the windows.
They did, yes. They did. They did, politely and quietly. So
respectfully.
Yes, respectfully. It was an experience. Well, at that point, we couldn't stop, and so we crossed a bridge. Okay,
two bridges.
Oh,
and it's just, for the record, if you cross a bridge with a Beervenger, it's usually a bad idea. But for some reason, these people chose to follow us, and we wound up at the Brauerei Spetzel.
Yeah,
and there was almost an international incident here, if I recall correctly.
Almost,
like we almost broke something. I believe Cider Girl was at the head of this as well.
What did I do?
When you go to,
they didn't want us there.
They didn't want us there.
Yes.
Was there a weird thing with the bathroom
and
too?
There was a weird
like
thing
you had to like buzz in.
Yeah. We almost ruined Germany, and like there might have been a split between the United States and Germany because of us.
Well, when you go to touristy areas in these cities, and Bamberg was certainly off the beaten path, I think. But even when we were in the touristy areas, most of the people in the restaurants have an idea of how to speak English, and not that they should. I mean, it's their country. You know, we shouldn't be putting that on them. But
yes, it's in Germany.
But anyway, we went a little bit off the beaten path to go to Spezialbrau, and over there they were like, "Who are you? Where did you come from?" We got our Beervengers t-shirts on.
So I
to their credit, they let us sit down and have a round.
Is that where we had a smoked Melzen?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. And it was
that's how they say Marzen there. We say Marzen here. It's Melzen.
We had a very nice. I thought it was a very good Hauk beer. It was much lighter in color.
I thought so too. Yeah.
Than the darker beer that we had at the Klosterbrau, and it was a lovely time.
This is when we learned that the wait staff in Germany don't necessarily smile.
Yes.
And that's a tradition there.
And they don't have to.
Yeah, they don't have to. And I promised that we would be gone by a certain time because the table was reserved. And that was the agreement that as we could stay, but as long as we didn't stay for more than a half hour. And I had to promise her that.
So Cider Girl actually saved the day and got us in there to have them.
And this brewery had been around.
I think that needs to be the name of the episode. Cider Girl saves the day.
That seems about right.
Love it.
The smoked Marzen that we had was, I think, my favorite beer of the trip because it literally tasted like someone took a pretzel, dunked a smoked sausage in it, and made it into a beer. All I wanted was a lovely piece of like cheese with it, and I was set to go. But that was a magical beer, and I may never forget it.
Love it.
And also,
and then we finished our tour by going back to the Echtlenkerle brewery where we had dinner.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was our original planned dinner.
Yeah. Now the dinner, it was a traditional, German style meal. And it included like a pork shoulder. Now, when I say a pork shoulder, I mean like it was like half the pig.
Big things of pig and gravy and some potato thing. That seems to be like sort of the par for the course.
It was excessive, and I loved every second of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
It was gross.
That was Bamberg. We had a great time in Bamberg. And our final, we had our hop farm tour on our way to.
That was so cool.
Munchen.
Yep.
It was so much fun.
Which was wonderful. And then we ended up our last Beervenger. We did another beer crawl in Munich.
Yes. And now it started with
Munchen.
It started with a tour of I'll be honest,
city.
I'm not 100% sure what. But it did end up at the Andischer am Dom location, which was doing specific.
Which, if we're really going to get into Beervenger trivia, when I was looking up to realize that Father Brownstout was on episode 34, I think that was the episode when Huck had an Ondex beer.
Ondex, yes, I did have one.
Because Huck mentioned he'd had Ondex on the.
I got it at the Whole Foods in New York,
And that was on episode 34 when I was in Dayton.
So our guide that day, who was a very interesting character, originally he was an American from Brooklyn, worked for the U.S. Army and had led a very interesting life, but decided that Munich was his home. and has become a German citizen, and he lives there, and he gave us the tour of the city, and he kept saying, we're going to a brewery, we're going to a beer hall. And I was like, which one are we going to? I was so excited. And it was a surprise. We went to the Ondex beer hall, which was delightful.
It was 1455.
It was delightful.
We had 3 pours of different styles of beer, and every pretzel that you ever wanted to pretzel.
Yes.
And their beers were strong,
I think I had
too.
some food there, but I don't remember what it was. Yeah.
Well, I did have a chicken salad because I was like, I can't have any more meat, any more beef. And they burnt the chicken. Yeah. Like, they're like, what is this? We don't know how to cook this. The Germans are not big on their poultry. They're more onto their beef and pork is where it's at.
Beer Wonder, do you have any thoughts on that guide that we had that day? Or you don't have to.
Was there something that we don't know?
No comment.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you.
Was there some? Yeah. I mean, now I want to know.
That's all right. I mean, he had lived a unique life and was adamant about it. The more we drank together.
Yeah, and that was what was crazy. This guy came with us. Well, his job was to take us on a tour and then drop us off at the beer hall. But he didn't drop us off.
He hung with us.
He literally hung.
He wanted to hang with us.
And then he walked a lot of people home. And at that point, we said, well, we want to go to more beer halls, which we did. We went to the De Shore, Haka Shore. We went to had a lovely beer over there. I think it was I don't know. I had another Helles.
I had a Helles there as well. Yeah. And then
we very briefly went to the HB place and then immediately went to the place across the street.
Which was an Augustiner.
And any comments there, Cider Girl, on that situation?
I was really sad we didn't go to the Hofbrau house because there was an Oompa band and I wanted to get up and sing and dance and I wasn't allowed.
And her biggest enemy...
Kat embarrassed us for even wanting to be there.
Well...
it was across from the Hard Rock Cafe, and she basically said that you going to the Hard Rock Cafe is the equivalent of me going to the Hofbrau house. And then all of a sudden, I felt that I had lost all hipster cred, and so I needed to leave immediately.
But in our defense, we went to the Augustiner Brauhaus, which is right across the street, and we got to sit outside patio seating where we were essentially outside the door of the Hofbrau house. It was a lovely time, and Augustiner makes a lovely beer.
If I could, it might be a good time to mention that I have discovered a cocktail while we were out and about.
Oh yes, this is actually important.
Oh yeah,
I had the Aperol, or I have no idea if that's the right way to say it, but it's Aperol.
Yeah.
It's an aperitif that is very popular.
Aperol. I think it's called Aperol.
Right. It is
Aperol Spritz.
Yeah, and they make it into, like a spritz, which is very much like a white wine kind of spritzer kind of thing you might have had in the 80s. But it's with this really interesting liqueur. It has herbs and it's a very floral, herby alcohol that's about 11%, and they put it in with just a little bit of like a Sprite sort of bubbly soda, and it's really refreshing and delightful, and it's great when a cider girl is out with her Beervengers and is tired of trying beer.
And you were
cider girl. I think the Aperol Spritz is really popular when I was in Venice. I feel like Venice was a place where that was.
I just was looking it up, and a lot of people think that it's a Italian thing, but apparently it might have started in Germany. It's a big thing in Germany as well. So,
after a night of important venging, which one does, we then went on we went to a kind of like a capstone brewery that was not only an excellent beer experience, but also like a beautiful architectural experience.
Yes.
Oh yeah, the Kugelbauer place. Yeah.
And a lot of the architecture was done by Mr. Hunderwasser.
Oh, I always forget that guy's name. I'm sorry. Hunderwasser?
Yeah, Hunderwasser. Yeah,
Hunderwasser.
He's Austrian. We should point out, because I feel like Kat would feel that this was important. He is Austrian. He's not German. Okay, and he is this he's like
he does not believe in straight lines.
Yes, he does not believe in straight lines. His whole idea is around environmental protection. He believes that nature does not make a straight line, and so everything that we saw was sort of this wonderfully like curvy. I don't know. It felt like Dr.
It was
Seuss-y
so cool.
to me.
Hundevase
It
is
was really
correct,
fun.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does a lot of mosaics. He uses pieces of broken tiles, and he likes to take over architecture and turn it into something that is art, but also includes wildlife. So often there's a tree growing out of the side of something, or he adds, moss or whatever. And for this one, he had designed this tower so that you could overlook the brewing happening and see the countryside while you were enjoying your beer.
I was at Kugelbauer Brewing. We mentioned it last week, but it's worth another mention. And something that I learned was because we teach about beer that they said they brew their Weiss beer, the Hefeweizen, in a week.
Oh, right. Yes, I recall
They
that.
said 1 week it's ready.
Yeah.
And that's an ale. And Hefe, I learned that Hefe means yeast.
Yeah. Now,
I don't know why I never knew that.
Now, I was quite taken
yeast white
by
yeast wheat beer.
Yeast wheat.
Now, I was quite taken by the number of elvish beings that we encountered on this adventure.
There were quite a few. Yeah,
it did feel like we had entered some sort of like alternate universe where the elves took over and cared for our beer.
It's an interesting world where all there were puppets and there were like gnomes and elves, and it's like we're talking about beer.
Yeah,
so this is not for kids.
Yeah, it's a good time.
There was a puppet who started a poem.
Or not, based on Emil's stories. Maybe the kids are in part of it.
It was the Disneyland of beer breweries, I think.
It was,
and there was another full day of beer because we went back to Munich and drank more.
When we were Delirium Tremens, I thought it was Willy Wonka World, but then I really felt that way at Kugelbauer.
And again, we left beer tickets on the table.
That was
yeah. We didn't.
We didn't because we went up and
we got second pours. Yes,
we got our samples, and then we just didn't finish the beers, which is a beer.
I wanted to have another beer, but I wanted to go to the gift shop to get this wonderful glass.
We got the good glass. Yeah. So it was an awesome trip, and it was great to spend time with all of you.
Well, but I do want to mention we had our final dinner and all that, but we did hit one more spot, and this was kind of an interesting one because while we did spend most of our time drinking very traditional German, Belgian, very traditional European style beers, the last night Huck took us to what I could only describe as the red light district of Munich. to
just a little bit,
just a little bit to Tap House Munich, which is a traditional like craft, as we would think of it in the United States, a craft beer bar.
I mean, yeah, it looked
because I was doing a search for it, and I was thinking we've been in Belgium and Germany for like 11 days. We've been a lot of breweries with a lot of traditional stuff, but we haven't really seen a lot of beer bars. And we found this tap house place with tap house.
Tap house. Yep, Tap House Music.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was like a 20-minute walk from the hotel. So let's go there. That's after our final dinner. I mean, that was the crazy thing. So many times our official thing we had for our schedule was like done at like 8 p.m. I'm like, but we don't just wanted to go back to our hotel and sleep so we went to this place. It was great.
Yeah, real nice place, and it was very reminiscent of like a beer bar you would find in New York or somewhere else.
We felt right
States.
at home.
Yeah, it was like an old school American craft beer bar, which was very cool.
It's telling that the name for the place was in English.
Yep, that's fair. And the staff was very open to us being American, and was very friendly. And but the beers in general were German. But they were German craft beers. So I know you can speak to this, Beer Wonder, about the beer you had.
Yeah, I had what was a German take on an American style IPA. And honestly, it was good. like it was respectable against many beers I've had here in the States. So I mean, they weren't being terribly creative, but they were doing an excellent job of the style. And I thought it was sort of an interesting way to round out what had been a 12 days of beer drinking, with something that was very familiar from home for me.
Yeah, it was a good time. And what did you have, Cider Girl? Do you remember what you had that night?
I had one of the Creek beers.
Oh, you went for the cherry beer. And I
Yeah.
think Father Brownstout was with us as well.
Yes.
Yep, we had the same
They
thing.
both had the same beer, yeah.
And I got to say, shout out to Father Brownstout.
And I had a black IPA.
Fine.
Whatever.
I was going to be like,
I'm
no one
sorry,
asked you,
I didn't mean to interrupt you. No one gives a fuck what beer you had. I'm talking about Father Brownstout.
I do want to give a shout out to Father Brownstout because this man is not a young man.
No.
I don't want to say his age, but I will. He's 80 years old.
81.
81 years old. If I was 81, I'm telling you, I'm not even leaving the house. This man walked all over.
We could barely get
Germany.
You to walk from a few.
He walked all over Belgium. He stuck with us to the very end. Went to the beer bar with us at the end too. Mm-hmm. And shout out to Father Brown. I mean that is some great stamina and great energy that man has. And I'm so glad to have gotten to know him better and to have spent time with him. So thanks, Father Brownstout. Really, more power to you. And he also got the Beervenger flu.
He did.
Or whatever it was, the Beervenger stomach virus.
Beervenger virus.
Yes, he got it. It was me, him, and then you.
Yeah, the three of us, and he powered right through it. Mm-hmm. It took him out for a day.
He slept on that bus.
He was back the next day.
He had to sit on the bus all day. It was that was the thing.
That's
like,
the
the
other
day
thing.
I had it. I got to stay in the hotel.
You and I both had that.
To go through it on the bus,
where we were able to stay. It was not a travel day, so we just stayed in our hotel rooms. Father Brownstout had to get on the damn bus with his stomach virus. He was
right when we were at the Meridsu Abbey. He was just on the bus, and I brought him. I brought him some.
He did not have the food or drink. Yeah, he. I mean, God, no more power to him. I hope to be that much of a Beervenger at his age.
Yes.
You think I'll make it, Cider Girl?
Yes.
That's very optimistic.
But yeah, anyway, I had a black IPA, so that was a thing, and I don't need to talk about that anymore.
I tell you what, though, to have a black IPA in Munich.
Yeah.
Do you remember the brewery? Did you have the Frau Blucher brewery? Did one of us have it?
I had my beer was from the Kamba brewery.
Kamba. I did have a Kamba as well. I had the
I think my black IPA might have been from Kamba as well.
I had the Kamba. That would seem to be their house beer. I had the farmhouse ale from them.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm looking at their menu.
I have this nice little moment. I'm just going to roll us back. We went to the outdoor market in Munich.
Oh, yes.
Where they have.
Oh, that's another thing that happened.
Yeah,
yes.
where you can sit outside and get beer and food and everything, and they give you the beer in the really big beer stein mugs, and I was holding down the table while everyone else was getting the beers and everything, and I just look up and I saw Hophead Huck walking towards me with a big beer stein, and he's never looked happier. He just never looked happier. And he did a little beer dance. He did a beer dance.
That was where we got our Hofbrau beer. We
did have Hofbrau.
Yeah. And the captain and I and Father Brownstout also had a Lowenbrau.
That's true. You did. Yes.
Same day.
That's right.
Let it be.
Near the Glockenspiel.
Tonight was that's another thing that happened. I don't know if y'all ever visit the city of Munchen, they're going to tell you, you got to see the Glockenspiel.
Oh, what are your thoughts?
And it's a thing. It's fine. It's good.
It's incredibly underwhelming thing, but Cider Girl and Beer Wonder were like, we're going to meet you there.
Yes,
they did not.
We're like, well, we gotta be there because Cider Girl and Beer Wonder really need to see it. They're like,
they did.
We can't make it there because Cider Girl's buying a dirndl.
So I had best intention of making it to the Glockenspiel, but I got the best outfit you've ever seen.
She did get a
and
good
it was
dirndl,
100% worth it.
At a thrift store.
Yep.
We went on a misadventure through the back roads of Munich and wound up at a thrift store where we found old school, clearly like someone had left their family drindles and lederhosen on the second floor. I was not brave enough to get myself some lederhosen, but Cider Girl jumped straight in and got a drindle, and I've never been prouder.
She was determined before the trip to get an authentic dirndl, and she did it.
I do have Bavarian ancestry, so it felt very
correct,
close to my soul.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, that was pretty good coverage, gang.
Yeah, I think we've covered everything. And if you have any other questions, if we left any other gaps, reach out to us on the socials.
Let us know what we missed.
If you'd like to hear about all the French fries and waffles, you can just email me directly.
Yes, there was also also a cooking class.
I'll forward them to her if you don't know her.
There were also all sorts of other details, but honestly, this was a beer-focused adventure, and I feel like we have represented for the beer that we drank.
Yeah, really well.
Yeah. I am. Wow, this is our first ever 2-part episode, and I'm feeling it. How are you guys doing?
Well, I feel like,
and I haven't eaten anything, so I got to have dinner still.
I feel like it might be time for everyone to check us out on the socials at the Beervengers. Email us at thebeervengers@gmail.com. And now, for Huck to play us out.
I think that would be great. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll be back as soon as we feel inclined to, or as soon as you bully us into it. I don't know how it works. We'll be back. We've got more stuff coming up. We'll be back.
With a Beervengers, Beervengers, Beervengers. We're the Beervengers.